Okay, time for another open stage review. So this is one that was active as of October of 2022. That's the last time that I specifically went to it. This is the Hostel Cafe, which is in Northwest. I think it's off Everett and like 18th, something like that. So sort of the Northwest Alphabet District kind of area, outside, beyond the Pearl, almost to Northwest 23rd. So Hostel, again, it's Mondays 6:30. It is, as the name suggests, it's like in the sort of cafe and common area of an actual hostel in Portland, Oregon. So you have kind of a rotating cast of, there's, uh, it was jam packed with not only players but listeners, like people who are guests in the hostel who have, this is like the best thing going is what's down on the ground floor. The food from the hostel cafe is pretty good, and notably, there's quite a number of vegetarian and or vegan or other kind of dietary restriction options, which is, kind of a counterpoint to some of the bars you might otherwise find yourself in for an open stage. As someone who's not a drinker, there were lots of things for me to get, from coffee drinks to soda choices. So that's kind of the venue. This is not a, as far as I can tell, not really a stepping stone gig, except in sort of a circular way, in that this open stage, format wise, is a little loose. One of the great benefits of this one is that, hey, if you want to get in front of some fresh ears, free of charge, I think, my feeling, this was a very rainy night. Like, normally you expect to not have much going on, and it was packed. And even people in the courtyard, just like under some cover, but like it was standing room only. Now it's a very small room, and the acoustics are not great, but there's a lot of people, at least in my limited experience, and so I would look at this one as, trying to get the word out about yourself. It is also something where the format um, has like a featured artist component to it, and that is the only way in which I see it being a stepping stone, is that you could become the featured artist if you sort of are a regular, play your cards right, something like that. um, I felt like the sound system was sort of, it was okay, but not, the system itself was not great, and it also, the hosts, this was not one of their strong suits. Was getting they didn't always get great sound. They didn't always have great solutions. If you're in terms of, they had, there was a little bit of a bias towards sort of bluegrassy kind of bands who were coming in with, fiddles, or with mandolins, or instruments that weren't necessarily that didn't have pickups, that weren't preamplified or amplifiable, and that is always a challenging thing to handle as a host. And there's a bunch of ways to approach that, but probably the worst way to approach it is, I'm just going to put an SM58 over here on this instrument, because that's, a lot of those instruments just don't project, and your typical vocal mic is not the greatest solution for for actually getting those to be in the mix balanced without, just pumping up the gain, and inviting feedback. So um that's, take that for what it's worth, that if you are a band that's got, if you're an act that has an instrument that requires being mic'd, you are kind of going to put yourself at the mercy of, kind of the best patchwork situation, rather than, whereas some hosts really, like can really help you in that situation because they've got the tools and they've got the experience to make your instrument sound good through that system in that space quickly, just like anybody else. And for other hosts, that's a challenge that sometimes is just, too much to conquer in a short time. And I felt like that was a little bit the case here. Um, Not to pick on the host, but in my particular experience, in my particular time being there, there was another thing that happened that should be warrants mention. They were very nice people and they were very friendly, very warm and welcoming. But as far as like the central core organization of the list and the time management of the acts, I felt like that particular day they did not do a stellar job of it. And the upshot of it was that, and part of it had to do with this featured act format. Like that is tough because the featured act, took more time than probably they were supposed to. Like they went on a little long. They stretched it a little bit, and that meant that the second half show, suddenly everybody's got, instead of 10 minutes or however it started, 12 minutes to 10 minutes to 8 minutes to 6 minutes. By the time I got on, I did one song. That is a frustrating experience. And that's a frustrating risk to run if you're going to an open stage and you can't be certain that that the format is gonna hold. And so, not to be, like I said, not to be critical, just to be catty about it, but that was my experience. And in my view, that's kind of, you know, that's the kind of thing that will make me hesitate to go back. So even though there were fresh ears, if you're going to spend the whole night waiting to play and then it's one song, to me, that's not worth it. It's just, it's just not really how I wanted to spend my evening, probably. Um, that said, there's a lot of things that are nice about it. And another thing I forgot to mention, this is a place that you can go if you're underage. Like if you're not 21, this is a place that can accommodate you. So there were a lot of young players there. That was great to see. That was great to see them having an opportunity. That was great to see them having an audience. It was a very enthusiastic, supportive room. The mood in the place was great. That was fun. Just be aware that, it's not going to be, like, from a hosting perspective, it's a little loose. Like, there can be some time issues and there definitely can be some sound issues too. Very nice, very warm, very welcoming, but that's a place I could see some improvement there. All right, so until next time, see you at the open stage.